Awesome. Hello, everyone. My name is Nipul Choksi. I run marketing for D&B's Digital Solutions, and I hope everyone's enjoying themselves at Sirius Decisions Summit and getting as much as possible out of the great content that's being presented at the conference today. I have the distinct pleasure of being the opening act for one of our great partners, Bain & Company. Bain works really closely with some of the leading marketers in the world, helping them drive their commercial strategies and enables them to be more effective with their digital tactics in order to acquire new customers and grow relationships with their existing customers. And so we have Saber Sherrard. He's the head of the B2B sales and marketing practice, and he'll walk you through some examples of customers who have been able to leverage the Bain's frameworks and tactics to be able to drive the right actions for a more effective sales and marketing engine. Saber?
Great. Thanks, Nipul. Well, first off, really happy to be with you all today at Sirius. And I think first and foremost, I hope this finds all of you safe and healthy, and generally doing well in these sort of unprecedented times. As Nicole started to tee up, I'm really excited about talking a little bit about Bain, but more so how we're using data and analytics to drive high impact action for our sales and marketing organizations, which I think is as true now as any time it's been in the past. By way of introduction, as Nicole mentioned, I'm a partner at Bain & Company. And within Bain, I'm a leader in the commercial excellence practice. And commercial excellence for us means all things B2B go-to-market, right? So all things B2B sales and marketing. And within that, I'm the head of our B2B marketing practice, which we believe is central to any effective B2B revenue generation engine. And we'll discuss a couple of examples of that here in a moment. Just a little bit on how we at Bain see the world of B2B sales and marketing, or as I mentioned, commercial excellence. This is our sort of framework that we affectionately refer to as the TIE Fighter for all of you sort of Star Wars buffs. But the way I would encourage you to view this is sort of beginning on the outside and then work inwards. So in particular, you'll see on the border on the left, value proposition and offering management, which are obviously critical capabilities in B2B companies, as is world-class customer experience, which you see on the far right of the framework. But as you work your way inwards, you'll see the top half of the circle includes many capabilities you might associate with any strong B2B sales org, right? So route to market clarity, sales capacity, account territory management, etc. But for the purposes of today, we're going to focus on what we believe is the center or the foundation of any world-class B2B revenue engine. And that's at the center of this page, and specifically market opportunity and segmentation, or said simply, a clear view of where the dollars are, right? And so, not by accident, marketing is sort of firmly located at the center of this chart and is in many ways the foundation of generating this sort of market opportunity clarity that I just referenced. I'll cite a couple of examples of how marketing has served as a catalyst to bringing this sort of clarity to the definition of market opportunity in a moment, but that'd be helpful to sort of contextualize how we think about B2B sales and marketing in aggregate. I guess just quickly, we at Bain spend a lot of our sort of time and energy sharing best practices and generating IP. This is some that I was involved with recently that we were able to describe sort of how data and analytics can lead to prescriptive activities for both sales and marketing. And in this case, how doing so can help sort of orchestrate demand through guided marketing. as you imagine, a lot of our clients are facing the sort of what we do now type questions. And so there's a lot of IP and a lot of our experience is available and represented on Bain.com, a subset of which is represented here. Obviously, please go to Bain.com or reach out to me directly if any of these topics or questions are resonating that we don't hit on directly today. But for today, Nakul and I wanted to cover 3 examples on how best-in-class B2B go-to-market engines are using data and advanced analytics capabilities to accelerate growth. And the 3 examples we'll talk through is, first, sort of market analysis. So these are sort of the fundamentals of total addressable market or size of the opportunity, but also the composition of that opportunity, right, in a way that's sort of meaningful and ultimately actionable. AI fit modeling. So this is using market modeling to identify prospects or current customers in a much deeper, more sophisticated way than maybe we've seen in the past, but to include attributes that are most predictive of fit, and I'll call it alignment with your product and service, and being able to do so quickly, right? And then finally, account whitespace analysis. This is using predictive analytics to identify target segments and profiles and personas that you should pursue, but also identifying the specific prospects or account names, right? So not just a persona, but literally what are the accounts or what are the names of the prospects, and then additionally being able to identify how much is at stake. So just how much opportunity and revenue is available and addressable for your offerings. This one in particular, I would highlight. This is an area we've seen a lot of the best sort of B2B go-to-market engines sort of shift some focus over the last 6 to 8 weeks, as many have sort of toggled their focus from a focusing on the base and almost a defensive protection of revenue standpoint to now, as sort of engagement rates and marketing content have increased, these same firms are now being a little more sort of proactive or aggressive with pursuing opportunities to cross-sell and upsell as a way of focus, which is an interesting sort of trend or dynamic we've seen in the very recent term. But anyway, so let's dive into some of the examples. So the first, sort of starting with market analysis, here's a fairly foundational view of total addressable market and potential opportunity that we conducted recently for a leading customer experience technology provider. This analysis was done with the Bain team in partnership with Lattice Engines, who's now part of Dun & Bradstreet. And what we were able to do is quickly identify the scope of the relevant market for this player, and then able to quickly array both the industry breakout by size, and so that's where the wider the section means the greater relative size of that sector in the display you see here. But we're also able to detect via multiple technology-based signals whether a relevant customer experience solution was present, and that you see in red, right? So this view, with among other things, validated some of the client's existing hypotheses, like hey, we have high share in the tech space. Well, that proved out to be true. But it was also able to bring to life other things that maybe they didn't have as precise a view on, like the vast size of the industrial space, or even the magnitude of white space available across the sectors, right? However, admittedly, this view, while helpful, is only sort of scratching the surface on the level of granularity needed to inform a well-executed marketing campaign or even a sales play. So this view, also done for the same customer experience tech provider, gives a little more texture as to where the source of the opportunity and focus might be. So while the prior slide illustrated industry level penetration rates, this view, which was done in the same sort of rapid analytical exercise, gives insight into the relative penetration rates within industry by company size, right? So what this enabled is, frankly, some enhanced focus for both sales and the marketing teams, right? And I'll tell you what, in this case, what it did is allowed a more focused set of efforts to be more against the 1 billion plus retail and hospitality sectors, versus, say, the small and mid-market targets, and perhaps even the automotive sector in general. So that was market analysis. The next example of, we use sort of data and analytics and insights was some work we did recently with a leading online services provider. So for context, this client wanted to run targeted marketing campaigns, but they first wanted data-driven confidence that they'd be targeting the right accounts, right? And so, again, with this client, the Bain team worked with Lattice Engines, part of DMB. We developed an AI fit models that segmented the accounts by the relative weight of the most predictive attributes, right? So let me tell you what you're looking at. So on the left-hand side, you see the predictive weight by attribute type, with revenue and employees being the primary grouping of attributes, right? No big surprise there. However, on the right-hand side, you see that while some typical firmographic data, so primary industry, for example, the segmentation also incorporated attributes like organic search traffic and even Facebook likes, all into a predictive weighting and account segmentation, right? So it gave us just, frankly, a much richer view of how to segment the potential universe of targeting accounts. Now, to try to bring it to life, I included this slide to sort of bring to life the prior piece, which could feel, admittedly a little academic, but try to show how we bridge from academic into practical, right, into steps you can actually take action on. And so again, this client was trying to identify the high potential targets for a marketing campaign, right, as I mentioned a moment ago. But you can imagine this also the same concept applying to a sales team that's trying to identify high potential prospects to call on, right, for example. So in many cases, using typical firmographics, like the couple you see at the top, like revenue and industry, to define targets or assign accounts, if you were just using those two firmographics, these two examples would have been considered very similar opportunities, right? Roughly similar revenue bands, same industry, but only through the power of incorporating sort of second and third level additional attributes like technographics and even intent searches that you see here on the page, does the AI fit modeling reveal that these two companies actually represent very different levels of fit, right, for our client service. And therefore, in this case, only buyer X should be targeted from an initial demand campaign program. Okay, maybe one more example. So our final example comes from a leading engineering software provider who, like many of our current clients today, is looking to identify which existing customers represent the best potential for cross-sell or upsell. Okay. So running a similar AI fit modeling analytical process that I've described earlier, but in this case, then applying a propensity score, which is represented by the score ranges at the bottom of the bar and the degree of the likelihood or the uplift relative to average represented on the top of the bar. We were able to identify a population of existing accounts that were more likely to buy than average or than others, and then able to assess the degree of which they were more likely to buy, right? So in this case, the best leads were 3.4x more likely to buy than average. Now, the important note here is, once again, this is the work that the revenue marketing team was able to execute on and bring to life, and then ultimately bring to their inside sales team to both get their input on the findings, but also align with them on which accounts would be the focus of an ABM effort, and then ultimately an integrated sales plan, right? So this next level sort of analytics was a key catalyst to getting marketing and sales aligned, which, as I would argue was central in this case to any sort of effective execution. Again, in the interest of trying to bring it, what could be perceived as academic and trying to bring it to life, once the marketing and sales teams were sort of able to align on the profile and sort of agreed on the analysis that I just talked through, and align on sort of the profile for the high fit customers in particular, they were able to separate sort of the best from the good from the poor, right? And the sales team was obviously ready to sort of take action, right? So arguably the most important element of operationalizing the data and the insights is giving that prescriptive action, right? So in this case, we were able to tell the sales team the specific accounts to target, which you see on the left-hand side, And then, as I'll show you in a moment, what about them made them great leads, right? And then finally, how much of the addressable opportunity is available. So like, what are they worth, right? So you see here, we've had to, sort of anonymize the names to protect the innocent, but you can see, for each of them, we had, this specific level of revenue they were generating and what the estimated sort of share of opportunity was by account, right? And so this level of detail drives action, right? So whether it be personalized level of targeting marketing can do, or in this case, the ability for sales to focus on an account level basis to hopefully expand a deal or close new opportunities. Right. Finally, this view is sort of further detail on the context or sort of richness behind the high propensity score. Right. This is also another example of, call it, marketing arming sales with data and analytics to drive action. Right. So, for example, as you see, like being able to arm sales reps with specific detail on customer accounts, like what customers are searching for, or visibility on sort of comparable technology that they have installed, or even their product installation footprint. These are all pieces of information that can drive specific action from the sales reps to boost sort of positive outcomes. And sort of in the interest of sort of pulling it all together, in summary, while sales and marketing orgs are grappling with an influx of data and deploying analytics in an attempt to sort of uncover the next insight, our view is data and analytics and insight ultimately enable the best sales and marketing orgs to do three things really well, right? And hopefully these are themes that I've hit over the last few minutes. One, apply focus, right? So focus means provide clarity and clearly define boundaries, market definition, and specificity around how much opportunity there is, and a data-driven view of not only how much opportunity there is, but where to find that opportunity. Right. Second thing is to drive alignment. Right. So AI fit modeling and white space analysis, when done right, can provide marketing and sales with a common view of where to hunt and serve as a foundation for developing integrated marketing campaigns and sales plays. And then finally, it's about action. Right. So in the end, data and insights needs to guide specific actions for both marketing and sales, which will drive higher ROI investments and activities in sales and marketing. So with that, I think that's the end of the sort of formal presentation. I want to thank you all for listening. I think we were going to toggle over to Q&A.
Awesome, thanks, Saber. That was great, great indeed. As marketers, we all aspire to be data-driven, and I thought those were really detailed and colorful examples that you provided that would enable us to take action. I see a few questions coming in here, a couple actually interestingly related to the same topic and is not unexpected. Given your experience in working with various sales and marketing teams around the world, can you give any sort of color or examples around how other teams in the B2B space are dealing with the current COVID situation?
Yeah, certainly. I think there's no sort of uniform response by any stretch yet, because I think we're many put it, we're still at sort of peak uncertainty. But maybe I can offer a couple of themes that we've seen. I think I may even have touched on them over the last few minutes. I think one, obviously we're seeing pretty, like it or not, a pretty aggressive step back on any sort of physical marketing, right? Trade show and otherwise. And I think, in some cases that's the extent of marketing dollars getting cut. In some cases, it's going beyond that. But I think what we've seen some of the really high-performing marketing engines in particular do is respond by just increased focus, right? So, in many cases from a demand generation standpoint, we see dollars being more sort of intensely focused, whether it's an ABM level or just sort of fewer campaigns digitally than maybe what they were doing before. So it's sort of an enhanced bit of sort of demand generation focus has been a clear theme. The other one is one I mentioned earlier, and that's, we're seeing a lot of our clients turn more of their attention towards the base, right? And I think, as I alluded to, 8 weeks ago, that attention was, generally speaking, more from a defensive or protect the revenue type orientation, right? And whether that was marketing or sales or customer success or, anyone that has sort of hands-on touch with the customer. But I think recently, as in the last, couple of weeks, so just very, very, very recently, we're seeing a little bit of a pivot towards, being more on our front foot and being able to provide more sort of, proactive or even offensive type activities towards the base, right? Because I think, as I mentioned, there's a lot of data out there, but some of the data I think has been really encouraging is, marketing engagement or engagement with marketing content has gone up significantly, right, over the last few weeks. And I think a lot of our B2B sort of world-class sales marketing engines or clients are sort of trying to still navigate, how to take advantage of that, right? But again, with a focus towards the base in particular.
Yeah, no, that's great. I've definitely, in my conversations with customers as well, seen something similar. I think, as marketers pivot from from doing online events and whatnot to more digital tactics, we've definitely seen, there's definitely a pullback in spending in terms of for technologies as they kind of seek to rationalize their budget. But companies are still looking for ways to kind of say, okay, how can I do more with less? And the more, kind of being able to focus their efforts. So that's definitely kind of an area that we see a lot of customers investing in. Another question here that, would be great for you to give a little bit more color on. Obviously Bain works with companies as they're embarking on these digital initiatives. How do you typically see, I think this question is more on the alignment. How do you actually achieve that alignment between executives, sales, and marketing? What are some kind of tips and tricks there that you guys have seen?
Yeah, I honestly, I think that the sort of secret to success here is not complex. It isn't to say that it's easy, right? But it's, data and sort of inclusion, if I had to summarize it, right? So I think, we spent a lot of time over the last 20 minutes talking about, using data to generate insights and analytics to, be able to ultimately drive specific action. I think, those that have aligned sales and marketing engines, one key is, the marketing engine is often, sort of the surfacer, if you will, of this data and running a lot of the analytics. They very much include sales in that process. They very much include, the field or insights or whatever it may be with, hey, here's what the data is pointing to, right? This is what we're seeing. This is why we think this particular cohort is compelling, right? But then the inclusion part is really important, right? Because the data in and of itself doesn't provide all the answers, right? Like you need the field or you need, the insight or whatever the sales force is to be able to provide, valuable context and input on what the data is surfacing, right? Because, the field often has, incredibly valuable feedback from the front line that should be incorporated into, well, actually this account isn't worth us pursuing and this is why, right? And so, again, not complicated, but, it's not easy. We have several clients over the years that, marketing and sales operate in isolation, and that's, that's never the path to sort of, being able to ultimately use data and insights to drive sort of frontline action. But in the end, I think the alignment's all about, being transparent with the data, transparent with the analytics, and then, incorporating, frontline feedback into the process, right? Into the development of a marketing campaign or into the development of sales plays, right? And just having it be a more inclusive process is ultimately the best path to achieving that alignment.
Yeah, so I think that's a great response there. One of the things that I've definitely seen as we've worked with different clients is, marketers that take more of a show, don't just tell tact, right? Where they're actually, demonstrating the value to sales. They'll kind of say, okay, I'm going to identify some high performing sales reps or some sales reps who are really enthusiastic about embarking on this initiative and make sure that they're successful, running kind of a pilot type construct. In order to really kind of show, okay, this is something that actually works. And not just have marketing kind of communicate that, but also have the actual sales team communicate that to each other. That goes a long way towards driving this alignment, if you will. Awesome. So I think we're up on time here. There are other questions, but we'll reach out to the folks who've asked the questions individually via email. Additionally, I'd invite you to meet with us at the Dun & Bradstreet booth in the Premier Sponsors area. If you'd like to set up a meeting as well on a one-on-one basis, you can see kind of a URL here. Additionally, I do want to also invite you to listen to some of the stories from some of our other customers as well. Ultimately, each of these customers, in addition to our partner Bain, what they've talked about, what Sabre's talked about, we'll talk about how data and insights enables you to be more effective, whether it's for account-based sales development, account-based marketing, marketing to accounts, and so on and so forth. And so with that, thank you for attending, and enjoy the rest of the show.